Thanks for listening to The BJ Show on Westplex Talk. The BJ Show is broadcast and streamed live Monday through Friday between 7 and 8 a.m. You can listen to replays of the show at bjshow.co or on YouTube at bjshow.video. Now it's back to Brad and John on Westplex Talk.
Well, make my day, pal.
Make my day, pal. Those are fighting words. Yes, it's tonight. It's on Netflix, and I was correct. It's actually in Irving, Texas, or Arlington, Texas. It's at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington tonight. Now, the interesting thing behind it is they weighed in. They're both of them within like a half pound of each other when they did the weigh-in. According to reports that Jake Paul got a little bit close to Mike Tyson during the weigh-in, so Mike Tyson gave him an open-handed slap right across the face. Just like the one you saw on, what was that, the Academy Awards, the Emmy Awards?
Oh, yeah, that cuck Will Smith and Chris Rock.
Right. Okay, so it's on Netflix tonight, and here we go once again. It's to the point where the interesting thing is I think Mike Tyson, what is he, 55 or something like that, and this Jake Paul guy is 28. Do you know much about Jake Paul?
I know that his brother is actively involved in WWE. I don't know if you knew that, Brad.
I did not. Really? Interesting.
Yeah. And his brother. Okay, so I find the Paul brothers to be really annoying. And I generally just that whole YouTube like that fake high energy thing. I call it fake high energy. I don't know if it is or not. Anyway, but Logan Paul trained to be a wrestler, Brad. And I really wanted to dislike everything he did. And he's fantastic. He has fought for, I believe he was the Intercontinental Champion for a while. So WWE as a company put the title on him. I don't know if he still has the title. But Brad, his performances are just incredible. And behind the scenes, guys who are real life, established pro wrestling workers say that his diligence, his dedication to learning how to do it, he didn't want to be one of those celebrities that just comes in and does like a high spot, which is like a move or two. Like he really wanted to learn the craft. He's so good. And his role in WWE has been as a heel. So his role is to get people to hate him. And he's so good at it, Brad. Anyway, so I have come to really respect what Logan Paul has done. I don't know anything about Jake Paul at all.
Well, I just pulled him up on Wikipedia. He's 27, born in Cleveland, Ohio. His interesting thing, he became he's an American professional boxer, actor, and YouTube. He started his YouTube channel. Actually, he was started on Vine in 2013. Remember Vine?
Oh, yeah, I love Vine, yeah.
He was as an actor, he played Dirk Man on the Disney Channel series Bizarre-Vark, I guess. Paul launched his YouTube channel in May of 2014, has ranked on Forbes' list as one of the highest paid YouTube creators in 2017, 2018, and 2021, 2022. Okay, let's take a look at, is it just Jake Paul? Is that his YouTube channel? Let's look at this. He doesn't have one of these crazy names some of the other guys have. And, the interesting thing about it is, if you've seen him, there's a whole thing going on, and to a point, we'll wrap up the show by talking about this. Maybe it's something we talk about too much. At least maybe I talk about too much. There used to be there was a book that came out like 30 years ago, and it was called The Circadian Switch. Have you ever heard this before?
No, I haven't.
And essentially what it did was the guy who wrote this book, let's see if I can find the book. Essentially what he prophesized was, and keep in mind this is like in the early 90s, so this is, good 30 years ago. He said that everything is going to do a 180, and things that were wireless are going to become connected. And now it's interesting because the exact opposite has happened, and the idea being is that radio was wireless, television was wireless, and then all of a sudden cable came along. So that was sort of the point he was making, is that cable took over and people didn't watch OTA television anymore over the air. They watched cable channels. And even if you wanted to watch your local TV channel, remember we talked about this, that I read this interesting article that the young 20-somethings are amazed that they can buy an antenna on Amazon and hook it up to their TV set and watch channels for free.
It's nuts.
How is it possible that we can put this $39 antenna on the back of our TV set and we can watch Channel 2 and Channel 4? Don't we have to pay somebody for that? Are we just stealing that off the airwaves? Anyway, the idea being is that things are changing again. And what's really fascinating about this is, You look at the numbers. You and I've talked about this before. You look at the numbers, what happened on election night. Now, you're thinking if there's ever going to be a time when people are going to watch these news channels, it's going to be an election night, correct?
Correct.
And it talked about that some of the hours that MSNBC had, the entire country, 25,000 viewers. Now,
which is nothing.
There are radio stations here in St. Louis that easily are doing 25,000 listeners right now. Not us, unfortunately, but right now, and we're just in one city. And if you can imagine, this is MSNBC across the country. And the idea being is that, remember the interesting editorial that Jeff Bezos ran in his own paper, the Washington Post, essentially calling out the journalists because of the fact that they're taking themselves way too seriously. You know, I mean, it's like, watch NBC, MSNBC, or CNN right now, and even to the point where, like, The View, you think the world has ended. You know, I mean, it's to the point where, and the interesting thing about it is, let's put this honestly, the people on The View, the people on MSNBC, CNN, ABC Network, CBS Network, NBC Network, become more and more irrelevant all the time, and they're replaced by the Jake Pauls of the world and the Hoovie's Garage.
And on a bigger level, Tucker Carlson. They have more credibility. They're more entertaining. Right. They're more up to date.
Even what's the lady's name who was on CNN before Tucker Carlson got fired? You know, the very attractive blonde woman. You know what I'm talking about.
On CNN, you said?
Oh, no, on Fox. I'm sorry, on Fox.
Megyn Kelly?
Megyn Kelly. She's got her own thing. And you have the rise of these people like Matt Walsh. We talked about him. We talked about Charlie Kirk. Ben. I'm not thinking straight.
Shapiro?
Ben Shapiro, people like that. You know, once again, and the idea behind this is that the people who acted as gatekeepers, and if you wanted to get something promoted and you're the PR guy, back in the day, you know, you got in the very beginning of the internet and social media and things like that. But let's say in 2002 to 2003, if you wanted to get something promoted, and I know you weren't back at Monsanto back in 2000, 2003, but if you want to get something promoted, you would call up the Post-Dispatch and you would talk to one of the editors, or you'd make a call to one of the producers at Channel 2 or Channel 4 or Channel 30 or Channel 5.
You're absolutely right.
And now you could say, hey, we got our own Monsanto channel up. You know, we'll just stick it on a website. We put it on our social
media. You get around
medias.
them completely. So let's draw that to Missouri, Brad. And if a guy is running against another guy for Speaker of the House, you might be able to get two sentences with an Associated Press reporter based in the Capitol, if you can get him or her on the phone. Or you could go on Scott Fawn's midweek update and touch all the people who follow this stuff every day, who are subscribed, who get notifications when Scott's going live. And then you could talk to them that afternoon. And you don't get two sentences in an Associated Press story. You get 20 minutes to tell your side of what's going on.
I know, and it's interesting. Okay. Last but not least, do you know who Tom Langmyer is?
I don't know.
Tom Langmyer is a guy I have a tremendous amount of respect for. At one point in time, he was the program director. I think he might have even been the general manager at KMOX at one point in time. And he's been in the radio business a long time and worked at WGN. He has an incredible career, very prominent guy in the broadcasting business. And he got out of the business, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, and essentially said he's going to form a company and he's going to buy radio stations. And he talked about this, that he's going to start his own private equity fund and get people to put money in his PE and essentially, promote, radio business and buy radio stations. Well, he never did it. And he's always on Facebook, and I see him all the time. He's one of my Facebook friends, complaining about the radio business. He does two things on Facebook. Apparently, he bought a farm. He's originally from, I think, Buffalo, New York, and he bought a farm in upstate New York outside of Buffalo. And he's always complaining about what's going on in the radio business. And at the same time, he's talking about the fact that he's spending most of his time working on his farm. He shows pictures of his buildings he's building and stuff like that. So he said, he put something on there the other day about the fact that Pittman, who is the CEO of iHeart, we talked about this, what was it, not this past Monday, I think a week ago Monday, they laid off, or actually fired, a bunch of radio people, mainly, morning show hosts and things like that, all over the country. And Pittman's comment was something about, well, we've got the technology to put the best talent, and we don't have to settle for second best talent in these markets. We can put our best talent in the market technologically, which essentially what he's saying is he can do the Ryan Seacrest thing, where Ryan Seacrest can be doing middays on Z107.7 here in St. Louis, and he can be doing middays on Z107 in Columbia, Jeff City.
Yeah, instead of relying on local talent.
Instead of relying on local talent. Okay, so Tom, once again, was on there criticizing Bob Pittman because he said all this kind of stuff. So I sent a little note to Tom, and I said, Tom, I say this with respect, but stop complaining about the state of our industry and buy a station or two, in parentheses, 100, and change things. I know, you said you've run the market numbers and it doesn't make financial sense. Become a risk taker. Get out of the paralysis by analysis. Stop posting the pictures of your farm and start posting pictures of towers and studios you're running, okay? So,
oh, wow.
Is that bad of me to put that?
No, I mean, it's aggressive, yeah.
Okay, so what happens? J.C. Corcoran calls me a turd. He enters.
I see it. I brought up your Facebook page, Brad.
Yes, he enters into the fray by saying, I'm a turd in the punch bowl, okay? And once again, I've never liked the word turd. If you're going to call me something bad, call me a POS. Somehow the word turd has always...
Yeah, that word is not in my lexicon.
Right, it sort of turned me off. So I write back to J.C. Corcoran, okay? J.C. Corcoran, thanks for all your positive comments, J.C. You're a true talent. If there's anybody who needs to buy his own station, and then S, stations in parentheses, it's you. Then you can post about how the owner screwed you and didn't appreciate you. I'm enjoying my life in my own radio punch bowl. Jump on in. The punch is great. And when things go wrong, I don't have anybody to blame. Not John or Robert or Karen or Mara or Bill or the dozens of other GMs you blame for the demise of your radio career. Let's have lunch and talk about it, and then you can punch me. Did I go a little bit too far, John?
I wouldn't have posted it. I don't think it's out of line. I think that I think you spoke your piece, and I think we should just I think we should let it breathe, Brett.
I'm tired of these people who are sitting on the sidelines complaining. It's like, to me, what I've never liked about sports talk radio. You got all these experts who are, the guys who
played football their freshman year of high school.
Right, and got thrown off the team because they were terrible. Okay, so my thing is, and this is sort of the union thing, my thing is, some of these guys are union members, okay? Let's say they're union electricians, and let's say I showed up on their job sites one day, and, oh my God, look at that, the Romex isn't stapled correctly, and oh my God, that outlet's supposed to be 18 inches above the floor, you got it at 22, that's a code violation, and OMG, you're using those old twisty, those old wire nuts, you should be using Wago lever nuts. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. I get it. I mean, the good thing is, and I think part of it is that you're not only engaging with Tom Langmyer and with JC, but other folks in the radio industry who follow you. As I understand, I'm not a Facebook guy, but I understand that folks that follow you would see your comments. So there's some value in making your view of, hey, get off the sidelines and get involved and buy your own station. I think there's some value in that.
Well, it's going back to the Lyda Cruson thing, okay? And once again, Lyda Cruson had a wonderful life, and she had a wonderful husband. And her husband got murdered in front of their house or condo, wherever it was in Central West End. Wasn't that the deal?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So she essentially said out loud, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm going to try to change things. So she became an alderwoman, correct? And then
Correct.
She became the mayor of St. Louis. Now, some people would complain that she didn't really do a lot to change things. But once again, the effort was there. She saw a problem instead of complaining. And I think at one point in time I read an article that she said that her work in government was a tribute to her fallen husband. I think in so many words, I don't know if I'm quoting that exactly or something like that. But, once again, I fight this radio fight every single day. And you and I, to the point where we're not the social media kings, but to a certain extent between you and I, when we get done with the show, I chop it up. It goes on a podcast channel. It goes on a YouTube channel. John massages it and takes my raw stuff that I put up, my raw titles and things like that, and he puts in SEO-friendly words, gives better descriptions, and for that, John, I do appreciate it. I haven't probably told you enough how much I appreciate your efforts on that.
Thank you, Brett.
But yet, we are trying to be multidimensional instead of just being a radio station. And even to the point where I still say, you go to the top podcasters, and like maybe Joe Rogan's too far out of that league, but if you find like the Call Her Daddy woman, I can't remember her name, I think it's Alex something or other. If Premier Radio Networks, which syndicates, Glenn Beck and in back in the day, the Rush Limbaugh show syndicates Neil, Sean Hannity, all those kinds of people. If the president of Premier Radio Networks calls up the Call Her Daddy lady and says, Alex, we love what you're doing. We want to give you a 3-hour talk show that we're going to essentially roll out after we get 300 stations subscribing, and we don't honestly think that's going to take too long. We think we announce this within 2 or 3 months, we'll have 300 stations sign up for your for your show and on. She's going to jump on that in a New York minute, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Because it gives her the scale that, to a certain extent, you can't necessarily get with just podcasting and things like that.
Being in the sea of sameness of podcasts. You're right, Brad.
And one of the interesting aspects of this was that Trump came out and laughed about the fact that Kamala Harris spent all this money, and she spent money for, it's still debating as whether she actually gave $1 million to Oprah, to her production company. I heard, I don't know how many million for the Queen Bee and stuff like that. And Trump essentially said, did you see that? He's essentially, the post that was a couple of days ago, he wants people to help out the Democrats. And, he's done with his campaign, but he's got money left over. And by the way, the reason he's got money left over, because, you know what he said?
What'd he say?
He took advantage of earned media.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Free stuff. He's working the system. And that's what he does best. He works the system. And that's why people love him or hate him. Everybody in the world, unless you live in an igloo someplace, in the North Pole or something like that, or you live in some uncharted island where there's no electricity and nothing, everybody knows who Donald Trump is, right? Everybody knows who the guy is.
You're exactly right. He's almost like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, or in some cases, Logan and Jake Paul.
John, you going to watch that fight tonight?
Absolutely not. Maybe I'll hear Logan Paul talk about it on the next WWE show, though.
Now, but what if Hulk Hogan announced he's going to be the referee? Would you still not watch?
I would sign up for Netflix and I would watch it live, just no matter where I am tonight.
Just to see Hulk Hogan in the ring,
Absolutely.
Right? Okay, so we know where John's values lie, and where his
glued to the Netflix tonight on contingent on Terry Bollea's appearance.
Right. Hey, brothers, let's come out and witch, and shake hands, and then beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Okay. John, have a good weekend.
You too, Brad. See you Monday.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?